Welcome back, everybody, to another fantabulous episode of the A to Z of Property Strategies with the amazingly phenomenal David Clouter.
Thank you, Mr. Wonderful Andrew Roberts.
Well, thank you for that introduction, David. That was very kind of you. Last time, we just moved on to the S's and we were doing sale and rent back and illegal strategy. So, where are we at now? We're doing something a little bit cleaner and more reputable?
Yes, but this is a bit of a problematic one for me because it's making me hungry. So I can't really do it, you see, because my tummy's rumbling and everything, and I'll just be a gibbering wreck by the end of it. So it is none more than the sandwich lease option. Over to you, Andrew.
Woo! I was going to say, I thought we were going to talk Southern Fried Chicken then, but sandwich lease option, I'll have one of those every day of the week.
I'll have chips
Great
with that.
Little products. And something that basically you enter an option agreement, a lease purchase option with a seller, a vendor. And you might agree that you'll pay them a monthly fee of, say, £500 or an upfront fee of £1,000 and an end purchase price of £100,000. Now, the sandwich bit comes because you sit in the middle like a piece of cheese in a sandwich, and you find an occupier for that property who wishes to exercise the option in a future point in time. Now, there's several areas that you can monetize that sandwich. Firstly, on the monthly fee, if you're paying £500 a month, you might offer it them at £750 a month. So you're making a little bit of jam to go on your cheese every month. You could charge them an entry fee, an option fee of, say, £5,000 instead of £1,000. That could be a bit like some piccalilli on your sandwich. And on the exit, you might have agreed 100,000. You might offer it to them at 125,000. So that gives you a couple of big doorstops of bread either side of the cheese, the jam and the piccalilli on your sandwich. So that is it in a very simple nutshell, what a sandwich lease option is, described in the terms of a sandwich.
And well, yes, which is it happens to be its name, but you know it's win-win in a sense because you know the person who signs up as the sandwichor and the sandwichee, I think there must be, so that with the sandwichor being the vendor, but the sandwichee, you've found them that property which they otherwise wouldn't have done, and that's you've expended time and effort, and you've leveraged your network of contacts, and you know if you're a super ninja, you'll be an ace negotiator like Andrew, and you'll really have honed that down. So you know you've done a lot of work, and had they found it themselves, which they wouldn't have anyway, there's no way that they would have been able to negotiate a better deal than the one you're offering them.
That's right, and you've put a lot of time, effort to bring forward the opportunity to negotiate it, to put the contracts in place, and at the end of the day, this is a great way for recycling lease options that you've taken on that don't really fit your purpose, or a great way if you're, and I've done this before, where a third party is wanting to buy the house but don't yet qualify for their mortgage. So what you do is this particular tool or product, the sandwich lease option, helps them to basically purchase the property over a period of time by securing it now. You provide them with some advice, or they get advice from elsewhere on how to perhaps improve their credit rating, improve their finances, report 2 or 3 years accounts if they're self-employed, so that they can qualify for a mortgage that can afford to exercise the option at the end of the point in time, but also allows, shall we say, time to uplift the value of the property as well, provided you're on the right part of the property cycle. And there's a great little video that we did with Mr. David Clouter on property cycles that we'll put a link to up here.
All good. And it's probably time for us to press the button like on these quiz shows and then move on to the next one. That was a good impression of a button. So what do we have next? We have... Oh, well, I'm the guy with the bit of paper. I was asking you. We have...
Well, I've got it digitally, but I'm looking at you on screen, David. So because we record these... probably about 70 miles apart. And
oh my
our
goodness.
clever little video editor stitches us together to make us look like we're sat next to each other. And it's just the way it goes.
Were it not for a little thing that happened in March, we'd be sitting opposite each other in the room, and maybe we'll get
Like
to do
we
that
used
again
to
at
in
some
the
point.
good old days.
It would be lovely. When they did had that sort of eat out to help out, we met up one time, didn't we? When it was safe and legal to do so. And no doubt when it's safe and legal to do so again, we will.
It was just funny having our face mask and having to shove the sandwich up the face mask.
Well, I know. We were running out of options, though. So the next S in our thing is scaling up. And that's got nothing to do with fishmongers.
Well, I was actually thinking it was the taps we were referring to there.
And well, I'll do the first half of this. I'll explain the problem. The problem is this: that when you start in property, as did I. I mean, I started. This is getting like Ronnie Corbett in his little chair that used to be on television on Saturday nights. That a bit of a shaggy dog story. When I started out in property, hey up lad, there were trouble at mill, and I was earning, I'll tell you, £5,500 a year. And my mortgage was £300 a month, which was about what I was earning. You see, and that was my first buy-to-let. It wasn't a buy-to-let because buy-to-lets hadn't been invented. But I bought this flat and I was renting a flat, and I thought, my God, it's awful. It was about half the size of the one that I'd been renting, and it was a horrible small thing, and mine had a grand piano in it and chandeliers and all that, and that one had a light bulb hanging out the ceiling and grubby carpets. So I thought, I can't move in there. But the problem was that I had already exchanged contracts. My God, you see, I was naive and not very sharp and all this kind of thing. So I thought, what will I do? So I rang up my bank and I said, help, this thing I've exchanged contracts on, I don't want it. And they said, and when a tradesperson or a banker goes, you're in trouble. But in this case, they said, we can do a thing for you called permission to let, which I don't know if we did that during the P's, but it's quite a useful one. If we didn't, we're sliding it in now. Yeah. So the bank gave me dispensation to rent this flat out, and the honest reason was not that I was relocating to another area, but it was bloody awful. But it was certainly up to tenant grade, and there was nothing wrong with it. And it had smoke alarms and carpets and that kind of thing, but it didn't have that feel. It didn't have the grand piano. Okay, in a nutshell, I don't play the piano, but it didn't have the grand piano. So or the chandeliers, and so I rented this thing out, but it was more or less eating up most of my salary plus my salary plus the rent was paying the mortgage, because at that time the base rate was 16.5%, which was quite a thing. And so I ended up being the plumber, the decorator, the carpet renewal man, the carpenter, and all sorts, and putting up stud partitions and things, learning how to do that and learning how to do all these jobs. It was good in the sense of now I know how long it takes to change a light bulb or something. How many trades does it take to turn a light bulb? That's like one of those jokes. So I know what's involved in the job. I know what it should cost. I can't be bamboozled, and so that is a good thing. For my first 2 or 3 years in property in the very, very early 1980s, I was doing that. Now, a lot of people get into property, don't they, as accidental landlords, and they end up doing that for the rest of their property careers. They end up going around there changing light bulbs and doing all that kind of thing. And to be fair, I did have to change a kitchen unit a couple of weeks ago, because when your trades let you down, that's the other thing. If you've got a tenant moving in, there's going to be a hold up. And so there are times when you have to, and I quite enjoy rolling up the old sleeves and getting stuck in, so I don't mind it. And my friend Dennis here, who's got how much property is it? I think it's 100 million properties, or 100 million pounds of the properties, not 100 million properties, because there aren't that many in the UK. But he will think nothing of rolling up his sleeves and doing a bit of plastering on the ceiling or something, because it's fun, and you get out and about. But in the sense of running a big property business, it's not fun if you've got hundreds of properties and you'd be doing that all day long. And there's this old, it's a bit of a cliche, but they say work on the business and not in it. How on earth can you develop your business if you spend all your time changing tap washers and changing light bulbs? You can't. And one of the things that we see a lot is that I mean, I don't do this anymore, having lost 25 kilos, but in the good old days I would go into Tesco or Asda or whatever and buy a great big cake and just eat it, wolf it down in one go. And that cake might cost me £2. Well, if I go into the Cafe Nero or whatever next door, a little slice like that will cost me £1.50. So if and I'm sure they don't go next door to Tesco and buy it or whatever, but if they had, there'd be an enormous profit that they would be making. And so it is with portfolios, that you can buy a portfolio a lot cheaper by buying it as a going concern. And the point that I'm making here is that you see a lot of these portfolios being sold off in my area at about the £10 million mark. And that is the point where the self-managing landlord cannot stand the pain anymore, and he's prepared to let it go for £1. And I go, get me out of here. And obviously anybody who's watching who's got a portfolio for £1, I have first dibs, but any I don't want will pass to Andrew. But that is the problem with scaling, that when these properties get to this size, which might be, 20 properties, something like that, maybe slightly fewer, you can't self-manage anymore. And then you need to start thinking about these systems that you're going to need for scaling up.
Yeah. Well, there is, a number of things that you've said there, David, taking it from the top. When David was doing his first property, we covered this before under the ends. He was negatively geared as a landlord. We're talking about scaling up the business here. And I would add, we need to work smarter, not harder in our businesses. Now, if you're on the tools, I do enjoy getting dirty and involved on a site. However, I also work a lot smarter, because my little cogs up here earn me more money than my brute force here. So I always work smarter, not harder. And if I get down and do something, it's because I'm doing it out of enjoyment and relaxation. And that's the important differentiation. And also from a portfolio landlord point of view, a really big biter at the moment is the proposal to balance the books on COVID-19 is to change the capital gains tax rules. Now that's causing a lot of sole trader landlords to look at how they can exit now before they get walloped with a massive capital gains tax bill. And that capital gains tax bill doesn't disappear when you die, as is current, where your properties are rebased to your estate. They're not rebased, is the proposal. Now, it's not law yet, but stay tuned. I'll drop a link to a video up here about taxation and saving property tax, be it inheritance tax, capital gains tax, or income tax, corporation tax. It will help save you thousands in tax on a regular annual basis.
I saw that video, and good it was. And I always say, no taxation without representation. Do you remember that?
Absolutely.
It's time for our tea party, isn't it? Time for our tea party.
Yeah, we've really run out of time again this time. We've certainly taken you on a journey. We've shared with you a lot. If you like what we've confirmed to you, give us a thumbs up. David always loves a thumbs up, don't you, David?
I do. It's the highlight of my week,
Absolutely. And feel free to hit that share button and share with your friends, or hit the subscribe button if you're not already subscribed. We've got more of these coming out, and videos on all sorts of topics, from building control to planning to property development and funding. So join us next time when David and I we'll be sharing with you some more of the S's. It's goodbye from me today.
And from me, adios.
Arrivederci.